Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of the Mind Body Detox, eliminating self-sabotage. So let's connect in the chat regarding your journal prompts from this interesting dilemma we had about our inner monologue, right? I want to know what came up as far as what awareness you gained from noticing your inner monologue. And share in the chat box below this lesson if you have any fun characteristics that you've given your new inner supportive voice. That's a really fun exercise to start to develop that inner nurturer. And what does that character look like, feel like, and how can you interact with that? So moving on for today. Again, if you have any questions, please always feel free to put them in that chat box. I love to answer your questions regarding any of these. I did answer some questions recently, and I apologize if my questions, sometimes my answers are very long, but sometimes they're short. So I really do love to elaborate if you have any questions, and are more than welcome to answer those when I have, I do answer those on a every other day basis mostly, and I can definitely get back to you in the lesson responses. So for today, remember our recap here to look at our tracking sheets and see how those are going for us, how we're sleeping, how we're eating, again, how we're feeling regarding some of this stuff, because you may have a part of your day that was more challenging. And then you thought to yourself, wow, this is really interesting because we're actually addressing this in the journal prompts today. Or this particular module and its characteristics that Kara was talking about are absolutely shining and showing through, and they're showing their face. Whether that face is ugly or that face is beautiful, you're seeing the attributes of imbalance or balance in each of these modules. So that's the beauty of the mind body detox. Again, when we detox, sometimes it's not always pretty, but we are allowing some of these things to come to the surface that need to be shed, that need to be let go. And usually, again, we usually relate to detox only from like when we're doing a cleanse or we're going through, some sort of protocol where we might have BO or body odor, or we might have digestive issues for a little while because we're taking some sort of supplement or some sort of diet. And that, again, detox isn't just that. And I think that's what's really fascinating about this program. You get to know that the mind-body connection has so much of a connection to your body. And you might even notice some shifts in your body just because you're making some awareness around things. You might have tightness or tension where you're not used to it because you're letting things go. You're bringing things up to be looked at and have awareness of. Maybe you're having ease in different areas of your mind that also are relating to your body now, that your body's starting to relax in a certain area. Maybe you're having improved sleep quality. Maybe it's, less sleep, better or less quality sleep. That's just depending on what that day is and what's coming up for you. And of course, whatever else is going on in the circumstances around your life during your waking hours. So again, the trackers, I can't stress enough how beautiful and supportive they can be. All right, so we're moving back into the energy centers and what they are metabolizing. And of course, we have the emotional metabolism. Again, self-love, balancing overworking and under recovering is always foundational. And then, of course, we're looking at, hey, how are you allowing yourself to not compare to others still, keeping that in check, making sure that you're allowing yourself to be truly confident and not having to overcompensate and be overconfident. And then looking at how you talk to yourself. What is your inner monologue sounding like? That negative self-talk, and redirecting to that new inner nurture, that voice that you've created that is supportive of you. And of course, wearing all those colors, incorporating those colors into your wardrobe, into your day, are very supportive to keep that energy center going, especially when it comes to balancing the attributes relating to self-sabotage in that particular area. So today we are going into one of my favorite modules. This is our module, the module that's connected to interpersonal metabolism. So this is where we balance our creative energy and our exchanges with ourselves and others. And I think it's interesting because with this particular module, self-sabotage comes up in a couple different ways. All or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, or what I call being a new junkie. So when we are balanced in our creative energy, meaning our expression of creativity doesn't have to be art, Some people are just creative in the way that they carry themselves or carry on a conversation, or maybe you come up with jokes, or maybe it's the way you decorate or the way you dress yourself. Those things are uniquely your creative life force. And the way you exchange that with other people through relationships, that's where we have a sense of contentment that I've created that. This is so beautiful. I feel really good about this. I feel good about this energy exchange with a person or a friend. But when we feel things are threatened, especially when it comes to our own creation or our relationships with others, we can have where we catastrophize, or we feel like, oh my gosh, all these things are going to go wrong. Or we can put so much energy into things and be out of balance with our creative energy. We're putting so much creative energy out that we can definitely end up burning out. And we can really perpetuate discontentment in our lives, and be focusing on what's next, what's next, what's next. I'm never content with something. So we're going to look at that here in the all or nothing mentality first. So when you're looking at all or nothing, this is what I see people. Oops, I have my notes down here, guys. This is when I see people looking at, I'm going to go all in with my weight loss. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to follow all the recipes. I'm going to do everything perfectly. And you're maybe not necessarily fitting it in a way that works with your schedule. And if you fall off the wagon for a day, or you eat a candy bar because you were stressed or whatever it is, this messing up or feeling like you failed usually equates to then, oh, I put all my chips in and now I'm taking them all out. There's this kind of yo-yo effect where you're like, I'm all in. I'm going to go in on this relationship. Everything's great. I'm ready. Okay. Or you see red flags in the relationship and then you sabotage it or you back off. Okay. So we're kind of coming back up again with that, the escape artist pest persona that could come up in that way. But that all or nothing thinking is really what keeps us failing, and sabotage comes up because we feel like we have to be the one that doesn't fall off the wagon, or if we do, we're not going to be able to get back on, or it's never going to work for us. So again, if this is related to your health, relationships, or money, anything at all with your job, if you are having that mentality where you have to make sure that you are not messing up at all, you're going to potentially allow yourself to let self-sabotage come in. I feel like I've seen a lot of people do this with the Mind Body Detox program in general when they're doing the 8-week program. And usually we cover this very early on so they don't get trapped in this. Again, where they want to do all the things, they want to follow all the recipes and do all the meditations and do everything every single day. And then when they fall off, they feel so guilty and they feel shameful. And again, we talked about that every day. Guilt and shame perpetuates addictive behavior, and it perpetuates potential for self-sabotage. So I tell people to be gentle with themselves, that if you fall off, like, even if you don't get to do the journal prompts, like for this program, you're like, I had to skip a couple of days because I'm behind. Like, that's that type of thinking where you're like, well, I just didn't get to finish it. I'm only stopped at day 3. That's why I like to do this all or nothing mentality PowerPoint presentation today and kind of present this slide, because a lot of times by this, people are like, okay, this is really good. I'm getting some journal prompts. I'm getting like a lot of information out of this. And sometimes then life happens or you get busy and then people are like, well, I just can't finish it. Or I feel so like maybe I'm not doing this good enough. So that's something that can come up with this module. Just keep that in mind. And it's really about intensity. And we'll talk about that regarding to the energy field. Catastrophizing is where you are really blowing one event out of proportion. Like, you're used to something going wrong and you're really thinking that it's not, this is an example. So when you are starting off a new project or something like that, and you have maybe it planned out and you're taking the action steps, again, this could be health, relationship, money, or your job, whatever it is. And you start realizing, wait a minute, this is going wrong. And now this is going wrong. Then you can blow up and say, oh my gosh, this isn't even going to work. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. And I used to do this with my podcast. I would go and I would try to record the podcast, and something would happen with the software, or something would happen where it just wouldn't record right. And I would just say, you know what? this is a sign that I'm not supposed to do this. And I would blow the event of just a technology, something that was just like I don't know, it was something that was just random. I would blow it out of proportion and I would use that as an excuse to avoid the discomfort of all the things I needed to look at, which was like, okay, you got to, shine a little bit here and people are going to see you if you do this podcast, and all the things that were unconsciously under the surface that were my fears. And it was easier for me to just blow something out of proportion and then give up or just back off and catastrophize. It was basically my way of making an excuse. And that's self-sabotage. So self-sabotage does come up in that way. So think about areas where you might blow anything out of proportion, where it is just overly emotional and dramatic. That's why, of course, I have this explosion here. Usually that's the course. Even if you're not an emotional person outwardly, but you feel it on the inside, like intense anxiety or, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world now that this is happening. Just be mindful of that. And then the third one is the new junkie. So if you are someone that wants everything to be new and you're jumping from one particular mindset or philosophy or book or program to the next, you are being lured into self-sabotage. I have so many people that I've met that have been really just, they love all the new stuff. There's a book actually that Gabrielle Bernstein wrote. She's an author. She calls it Spirit Junkie, and she called herself a spirit junkie. Like she was, I want to be into crystals, and now I want to be in the Course in Miracles, and now I want to be involved in meditation and like learning all the things when it comes to evolving herself as a spiritual being. But there are endless things, so many things you could learn for the rest of your life. And, she wasn't someone that I think was engaging in this behavior, but there are people that will jump from one particular book or philosophy to the next. They'll gather all the information and maybe get a little bit of value out of it, but say that the whole time they're trying to overcome a pattern of why they always sabotage their relationships. And they think, well, maybe I'm going to learn some meditation and that will help me. Or money. Money's a big one. Let me just talk about that one, because that one I think people can relate to. I can go all the way with that example, I think, off the top of my head. So if somebody is trying to manifest more money, okay, and they take a course on meditation for manifestation, they start listening to certain meditations that are supposed to help them. Maybe then they go to a hypnotherapist. I'm going to go to the hypnotherapist and see if that will help. And maybe I'm going to listen to all these podcasts about how to make money or invest or whatever. There's a lot of this jumping to the new thing. And then you might get the salesperson that jumps on the beginning of your YouTube video or whatever you're getting, advertisements that just pop up that say, this is the new best way to make money. And then you it's like clickbait. You get down into the rabbit hole. You're like, oh man, this is the next thing that's going to fix my relationship, or it's the new supplement. It's going to fix my weight issues or my issues with addiction to cigarettes or whatever it is. I've met so many people I love too, that are close to me in my life, that they're always telling me like the next thing they're doing. And they're like, this is the thing. And then I look at that and I kind of step back and I was like, you've been doing this for 10 years, honey. I'm like, I haven't seen progress. And that's the part, like we all don't progress at the same rate. It's okay if there's, you're jumping from hypnotherapy to meditation and you're getting a little bit out of it each time, because most of us get something out of it. But mostly I'm talking about when we are looking at this new junkie is someone that doesn't really fully engaged 100% and put all their eggs in that basket first before they move on to the next. Because I could be considered a new junkie if in a sense, if you look at, like, Kara learns a lot of things, then she jumps to a new thing. But what's the difference is that I will put all my eggs in that basket. I will learn what I need to learn and use it and actively put the philosophy or the method to work. I will do the action steps. So if you are someone that just wants someone else to fix you, you're in that mentality of life will just happen to me and I'm going to go find someone that will save me or have the answers. That mentality of thinking, that mindset usually are the people that are stuck in this hamster wheel of like, they just keep going. And I feel it's something that it does support the self-help industry, because people make all these books but like, if you look, there's books, podcasts, programs, over the last 30 years, I mean, I listened to some really good stuff from like the 60s and 70s. Like there's this amazing teacher, Joseph Campbell. He's an amazing teacher, and his stuff is just awesome. And like even Tony Robbins has stuff that he's had since the 80s that is still good and relevant to this day. And he's saying the same thing as someone else. It's just in his particular flavor of or way of saying it. So when people are just jumping for the next book or the next program or the next supplement or whatever it is, and they're not actually utilizing it to its full potential and sticking with it consistently until it creates results, that's what the problem is. And that's really just self-sabotage. And it's almost like I think it's clickbait. That's what I say. It's clickbait, because even Mind Body Detox program, for somebody out there that thinks that, this is the answer, but they're not going to put all their eggs in and do all the action steps involved, they may get some value out of it, but then they may maybe towards the end, they may jump off. They might skip, day 6 and just say, I'm bored with this now. And what's the next thing that's going to help me? Or they may not complete it thoroughly. And that's okay. Maybe, you might not have time to do it now, but you can come back and do it because we're busy people. But if you're not going to finish it, you're going to say, well, that didn't work. Well, did you put the energy in? Did you consistently stick with it? Because sometimes a supplement doesn't work for us if that's the particular thing you're diving into, and it worked for somebody else. Okay, so that's definitely makes sense if you're consistent with you tried it and you move on. But I think the new junkie is an interesting thing, and I see it all the time. But again, when you can't really call people out to their face sometimes if they do things, because people get triggered by that. If you're not ready to hear something about yourself, there is no one in this world, even Jesus Christ himself, that could raise from the dead and say, hey, you do this. People are like, no, I don't. And, they don't want to hear that. But it's so common in the self-help industry. Stop it. We need to stop it. If you really, truly want to fix yourself, if you feel like you're broken, because I'm a believer that we're not really broken, we just perceive ourselves to be. If you really want to find peace and happiness, that's a different answer than fixing. But if you really want to find peace and happiness, it's right there in front of you. And whatever resource has been brought to your feet by spirit, whether it's this program or a supplement or whatever it is, those answers are always there. It's about learning discernment about what's right for you, how long you engage with it, and to give it a good run. So I could talk more about that one. I just feel so passionate about this one because I see it so often. And one of the things that I know as a intuitive person, that doesn't matter how many times I say something or someone else says something, until someone's ready to hear that they might be a new junkie, I don't care how many times I say it, or Jesus Christ himself comes and tells us to say it as well. You won't hear it until you're ready to hear it. But I would say consciously, as much as you can, think about it. Are you someone that jumps from this to the next thing? Because it's a big deal. I think it's one thing that why people continue to say, well, I just haven't gotten there yet. I got to spend more money on this next, $1,000 program, or some of the things people spend money on. I don't understand it, because I definitely think it's good to invest in yourself. Like invest in all these amazing things that support yourself, even like beautiful jewelry and crystals, like whatever floats your boat, but don't do it excessively. I feel like it's a waste of your energy and resources. And that's just, again, a sneaky way that self-sabotage will come into your life. And so here is the image for today. We're down into the lower abdomen, the small intestines, bladder, ovaries, uterus. So this is like the pelvis area, which is where this energy center sits. And that is what I call the creation module. So this is where our creativity sits, our contentment, our ability to contribute to the world in an energy exchange format. So how you exchange energy with your plants, with your cat, with your pet, with your children, with your spouse, with neighbors, with strangers, whatever it is. You are exchanging energy from either intimately, not necessarily sexually, but intimately as far as connecting with people in an emotional sense, or on a more surface level. This is how we exchange. And a lot of empaths that are highly sensitive and have a hard time separating themselves from others tend to have an energy enmeshment issues. And this energy center seems to be sometimes out of balance. And it can lead to hormone imbalances and heavy menstrual cycles and lower back pain and all different issues relating to the organs in this area. But when it comes to the purposes of self-sabotage, we look at this area as an area that holds and carries emotional charge. So when we are emotional, when we are not emotionally imbalanced, that can, of course, be potentially because we have hormone imbalances, or it can contribute to them. which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? But I think that we need to look at this because when we are working from a place of emotional imbalance and stable energy, we're able to see self-sabotage coming. We're able to use techniques to eradicate it before it starts to sneak in and take over. So if we're imbalanced in this area, we might have emotional imbalance. We might be expressing ourselves in a way that is creating that catastrophizing, that space where we are feeling all or nothing. Again, we're hyperbolic in our nature with things. And we could potentially be, having that a little bit of that addictive behavior where we want the next thing. We want the next hit. Give me the next hit. Whatever that hit is, it's like another thing I found on Pinterest that's going to help me, or another thing I'm going to like try this supplement, or I'm going to try this relationship app to find my soulmate, or whatever it is. Like that is the chronic drive behind an imbalanced creation module. So the energy center around this area. So that's where people are really feeling discontent. That's the foundation of it. If we can find contentment, and usually that relates to having quality relationships and intimacy that's healthy for us, and creating or expressing our creativity, we have contentment in our lives, whatever creativity looks like. And when we don't have that, an outlet for social connection and intimacy, or having an ability to express our creativity and have fun and just let loose, right? We won't have contentment, we'll have discontentment. And discontentment leads to this it's almost like a volcano. So if you have discontentment and no creativity, because creativity is like the life force of who we are as beings. So if it's kind of congested in there and stopped up, it's like a volcano that if it just gets compressed and compressed and compressed, we start to feel emotions. We start to feel maybe we want to get out something. We want to create drama to get something out, or drama happens around us. And that's something that's really interesting because it is like I almost like see it like a volcano too, where if we would have a slow and steady pace of just like that lava flow of creative expression, it's like paving the way for connection with people. It's allowing ourselves to flow and be in a place of fun. I think when we can express that, we're not necessarily getting stopped up, and it has to come out all at once, and all at once in maybe a destructive way. And that's where I see people who are imbalanced in this area, when they get bored because they're used to drama, they're used to heightened emotions. It's not normal for them necessarily to experience balance, and balance may, in contrast, seem boring to them. So they might unintentionally create drama. They might catastrophize. They might have that all or nothing, so much energy force, like a sprint, like they're running real quick and then they get tired and then they burn out, right? That's that all or nothing mentality. So if you can allow yourself to have stable energy, which includes having the balance with all of the self-care stuff that we track with our tracking sheets, sleep and your eating, and what type of self-care meditation or journal prompts or walking or listening to music, whatever your activities are that allow you to have a stable energy and also an emotional outlet and a creative outlet, you can continue to move forward without getting caught up in these three things: the all or nothing mentality, catastrophizing, or having that need for new things. You can really have drama control when you're able to stabilize your energy that way. And also you can have a steady pace moving forward. There's no this rushing around or this sense of hurry, I gotta get this done, or a sporadic pace. I see some people who are sporadic with how they move forward. They'll jump to one thing to the next, and then they'll stop, they'll move backwards, they'll get distracted. And that sporadic pace contributes to that energetic imbalance. We also have that need for creative expression. So whatever creativity looks like for you, I said it's not necessarily being an artist. It could be crafting, the way you decorate, the way you dress, the way you make food. All those things are needed to have balance in this area. Because when we block that creative expression, that's when all the other stuff comes up. But the foundation of this particular module, to not get stuck in that new junkie mentality, catastrophize, or to have all or nothing mentality, is to find contentment. What does contentment feel like for you? That's just feeling happy and, joyful and just and grateful. This is what I like. This is what I like to do. This is who I am. So that is the foundations for balance in this module and allowing yourself to not get caught up in self-sabotage. The affirmation for this module is, of course, I am content. And it feels really good to say that, like, I am content. I am just content. This is great. Like, it's not contentment for some people. They misconstrue it and think that means that if I say I'm content, that might mean that I'm like lazy, or I don't have any drive, or I don't need anything more. And some people are worried about experiencing contentment. I've had a client who said, to one of their spouses, like, they're just so content, almost like a distasteful, like, perception of, like, they're just so content. And that client is actually someone that's really a high achiever and is always go, go, go and pushing themselves. And that contrast for them of seeing someone who doesn't push to the degree that they do in extremes or in excess, it seems unnatural to them. And to them, it seems distasteful because they perceive that person in contrast as like lazy, or they're just, they're not going to get anything done in their life. And it's interesting because really what that client needed is just to feel contentment and allow themselves to have that peace. And I think if you are allowing yourself to perceive the word contentment not as stagnancy, it doesn't mean you're stagnating or you're just sitting still and you're going to wither away. It is the foundation to create more. It's a foundation for abundance. It's actually when people are feeling abundant and prosperous, which is what a lot of people want. They want to feel the abundance in their relationships, in their health, that prosperous health, or that full capacity of vitality in their health. And again, the relationship factor, and then their job. They want to feel abundant and prosperous in all these areas. Well, when you are in that space and you actually have experienced abundance and prosperity in all these areas, you feel content. And maybe that moment is fleeting because maybe then something happens and you don't feel as abundant or prosperous. But one way to continue to cultivate that space and to hold it, that you can create and keep that going on in your health, in your relationships, in your job, it is the contentment, is cultivating a space of contentment. And through using an affirmation and doing action steps or activities that help you feel content, that's how you can engage with that and activate that energy, so to speak, in your life on a daily. So I am content. And as always, feel free to connect into the community for your support throughout the day. Check in with us about how you're doing. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, guys, it is about progress, not perfection. Remember, be aware when you compare. It's very, very important, and enjoy this journey every single day. This is your life. This is what you get to choose. You are the master and the storyteller. So as you rewrite your story, as you rewrite the way that saboteur comes up in your life, something that is now a protector for you instead of a saboteur that sabotages your dreams, it is a protector for you to discern when it can come in and actually use its skill set as a constructive force in your life. You can be aware of when you can let it step out of the picture and say, no, you're being the negative mindset. You're catastrophizing here. You're overworking and under recovering. You're being overconfident here. You're comparing too much. And you have that all or nothing mentality, or you're jumping to the new next thing. You're getting involved in the new junky stuff. So that conversation is about that awareness. So you're being aware of where it's coming up. So thank you, everyone. You have a fabulous day. And again, incorporate that color orange into your wardrobe, into your day, and utilize the journal prompts and the meditation and their tracking sheets. And then we will see you again tomorrow.